he can organize them.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and I appreciate coming to the club. And it's you're lucky as a club in an area to have two district leaders who are actually willing to stand up to the machine, and that's to the credit to both Alan and Joanne, and I assume also the backing of the people who elected them. And so keep up that great fight, because we need people out there making it clear that democracy is important and actually people have to have a voice. So I wanted to talk just for a few minutes about why I'm running, and then open it up to questions. We are at an extraordinary time in our country, and one of the things that strikes me, has struck me in the last couple of days, is the way in which I'm proud to be an American, and the way also in which we live in these incredible contrasts in our country that are quite challenging. So over the last few days, I'm sure you've seen these, it has made me quite proud to watch our United States military go to Haiti and save the people who are, as we know, in a deep crisis. And it makes me feel great. And it makes me feel that when my tax dollars are going to that, I feel a lot of pride in my country, as opposed to when we send aircraft to bomb people in other countries like Afghanistan and Iraq. So that is one of the things that really is something that inspires, and is one of the great things about our country, and is a beacon to the world, and what makes our country admired and respected, and a country that people want to follow and emulate. On the other hand, today I organized a rally in Wall Street in front of the Goldman Sachs building. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is the notion of our Constitution. And I actually have my Constitution here. And unlike people who like to use it to talk about the Second Amendment and other things to suppress people's rights, whether it be about same-sex marriage or guns, I like to talk about the preamble of the Constitution, which I think is one of the most progressive and liberal statements that has ever been written. And you remember this: we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and it goes on. But I want to stick on promote the general welfare. Because promoting the general welfare is one of the great ideas, one of the great progressive and liberal ideas that we should embrace and that we should be proud of. And that we, all of us here as progressives, should use when we talk to the voters, to the right wing, on talk shows. Because basically it says that everybody should share in the great bounty of this country. That in the richest country on earth, we should not have the greatest divide between rich and poor that we've had in 100 years. And so when I read that and I think of that, I think of all the community activity that people here do, that the labor movement does, that all the movements for rights have done to promote the general welfare. And then I turned around and looked at the building for Goldman Sachs. And what I said today was that what Goldman Sachs did to this country was unpatriotic and un-American. That to essentially crater the economy, to destroy the retirement of millions of people, to evaporate millions of jobs and put people on the breadlines, and then to award themselves, the top elite, tens of millions of dollars at a time when this country is facing the greatest crisis we've had, economic crisis, in at least 50 years, is un-American and unpatriotic. And we stood there and we said, never again. Never again. This cannot happen in the United States of America, in the country that's had the greatest wealth in human history. And that's what this election is going to be about. Do we want to draw the line and say never again? We are not going to let that happen again. Now, I will tell you that if we don't seize this, and if we don't do it, someone else will. And that was the lesson in Massachusetts. The lesson in Massachusetts was not about Democrats versus Republicans. It was not about liberals and conservatives or moderates. It was about the voters saying correctly that they've had it with the system, that they live in a dysfunctional system, that most elected politicians of both parties are not taking care of the people's business. And they are not looking out for the people's business, that they think that they own the seats that they have for their lifetimes. And now I don't agree with most, probably anything that Scott Brown says or stands for. But when he said, in response to a question about this being Ted Kennedy's seat and so on, this is the people's seat, the response electrified the voters. And I want to argue today that if we do not hear that message, Democrats will not win elections, and we will not deserve to win elections. Because the people are fed up. Now, on the other hand, I'm very optimistic, because I have not seen in my adult lifetime, and I've been doing social movement organizing all my adult life, that's all I've cared about. I have not seen this crisis in 30 years, and at the same time, I've not seen people's ears open in a way that they are now. Now, they can be dragged, as we know, in the wrong direction. But these folks that go to town hall meetings and vote in Massachusetts are not all teabaggers. And if we don't see that, we are going to miss the greatest opportunity, perhaps in our lifetimes, in my lifetime, to change the country. Because the country needs change, particularly from where I come from, at the economic level. We have to change the rules and return to a country that believes in equity and fairness. Now, I will say that I believe I can win the